Howdy folks, my name is Richie and I'd like to welcome you to a special Star Wars The Old Republic beta test impressions video. I've got my Star Wars t-shirt on, I've got my friend Chewbacca over here, and Max Rebo over here. Oh, wait a minute, scratch that, reverse it. And I've basically been asked by a number of people who have watched my Star Wars beta test walkthrough videos with Cheeburger. He's really cool, check him out if you haven't. I've been asked, what's my opinion of the beta test so far? Am I going to play the game? So sit back, relax, and we will discuss everything. Oh, hello. Okay, to start things off, I'd like to give a brief summary to anyone who might not know what Star Wars The Old Republic is. And you should not live under a rock because you don't get a lot of information there. But anyway, in case you haven't heard of it, this is a brand new MMO that is coming out on December 20th. It is being developed by BioWare. It is being published by LucasArts and Electronic Arts. The game takes place 3,500 years before any of the Star Wars films are released. So you're not going to run into characters like Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, even Yoda. This is way before Yoda. It also takes place about 300 years after the events of Knights of the Old Republic, which is a game that BioWare also developed. In case you're familiar with that, it takes place 300 years after that, and that really kind of sets the scene of where this takes place. The game has everything you'd expect from an MMO that is released at this point. It's got a single-player experience. While you're leveling up, you can do that as a single player or as a group. It's got flashpoints for groups of 4 players. This is basically their version of a dungeon. They have operations, which are for players of 8 players or 16 players at a time. Very coordinated, very difficult, but it's kind of like their answer to raiding. And there's also war zones for those who like to go into PvP. It's kind of like a battleground type ability. There's a whole mess of different features of the game. There's a crafting system, but anyway, you get the idea. It's an MMO. It's got all the bells and whistles. And there we go. So I've been in the beta test for about a month now. I've tried a couple different characters. I've leveled them up to around 15-ish or so. So I haven't seen any of the higher levels or any of the end game in Star Wars The Old Republic. But I do have some impressions about what I have experienced. But it's very difficult to kind of review an MMO or say, what it's going to be like unless you've actually experienced the end game. Because this is a game that's geared towards your end game. A lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing, sure, there's plenty of stuff to do as you level up, but a lot of what this game is going to be viewed as is what happens once you hit max level. So I can't comment on any of that. All I can comment on is what I've experienced personally. And I can say, pretty honestly that what I've experienced so far is a lot of fun. Now, before I get into things specifically, a lot of the comments that I've seen, to my YouTube videos or just floating around the interwebs is just basic hate towards the game because well, it just looks like WoW from space. All right, let's just deal with this up front. This is not a WoW clone. This is, that's the same as if you're talking about WoW and saying that's an EverQuest clone. Okay, what happens in the gaming industry is people look at other games of the same genre, they take what's successful and what makes it work, and they kind of include it in their game. That's smart. So a lot of the MMOs coming out right now, are going to have an interface that looks similar to WoW or Lord of the Rings Online or Rift. And they're going to have action bars down there. And they're going to have things like quests and mini-maps and, different things that make you feel familiar when you play the game. Basically, a game developer has 2 options when they're going to put out a new MMO right now. They're going to either, let's put out something that all fans of MMOs are going to be instantly familiar with so they can, instead of just learning a whole bunch of new stuff, they can just jump right in and get into the game and play our game and see our content. Or they can try to, really shake things up and, innovate and change things. Now, each one has risks involved with it, and each one can be a successful thing. Star Wars The Old Republic is a familiar game because it uses a lot of the conventions we're already used to. Right? It's not going to take every single aspect of what we know about MMOs, break it down, innovate, change it, and come up with something different, because that's Guild Wars 2. So the game will feel familiar to you if you've played other MMOs before, but it is not an exact copy of them either. It takes a lot of what works, a lot of what we're familiar with, and it puts it in, and it does it very well, I might add. If you're sick of MMOs, that play a lot like WoW or play like Rift or any of these other games, then yes, you might be a little bit sick of Lord of the Rings Online because it it kind of takes that formula and it does evolve it in some aspects, which I'll get into, but it will play similarly to that. All right, this is not an action-based MMO like Terra Online or like a Dragon Nest. It is not an open-world sandboxy type thing like a Minecraft or anything like that. This is a theme-parked MMO like you've been used to. So get over it, and if you're still watching this video now that I've said that, then let's continue and get into my opinions. From what I've experienced so far, it is a very well-polished MMO. Even at, it's still in beta, and it's just, I'm sure there's some bugs and some issues here or there, but it looks really nice. It's got some solid gameplay. I haven't experienced any lag, any crashes, any server shutdowns, and that's including this gigantic stress test they did this previous weekend where basically anyone who wanted a key could get a key. I didn't experience any issues with that. So I think they're going to have a solid launch, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, there are a couple things that I think that absolutely do stand out with this game and kind of separates it from all the rest. You guys still with me? You guys look a little tired. You haven't moved at all. Are you guys with me? All right. Let's continue. There are a couple things that they've totally innovated, and they give you kind of some experiences that I've never found in an MMO to date. Now, one of them, and you've probably heard about this if you've been following the game at all, is the cinematic story that gets told to you while you're playing through this game. There is no quest text for you to read, and that is very significant. It may not feel like much to just say it, but when you're playing it, it's a total different experience. I mean, think about it. Even if you love the story, and you read every single word on these quest texts, and by the way, most people just skip right by it and don't get any sense of the story whatsoever. But even if you read it, your inner mind is probably reading it in a pretty dull way, and it doesn't do anything to kind of evoke any kind of emotion or get you excited about it. I mean, think about it. You probably go up and you're reading the quest text, and you're like, all right, thank goodness, hero, you are here. There are a bunch of radioactive aardvarks attacking the village. Could you help us, please? We'd really appreciate it. Blah, 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 blah. Instead of that, in Star Wars The Old Republic, you get this guy that just comes out at you and goes, oh my goodness, thank goodness you're here. Look over there, there's aardvarks and they're radioactive. You gotta help us. Ah! And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, okay, where? I gotta help you. And it's a total different experience, Obviously, it's not going to be aardvarks, because that would be weird. But you get the idea. They get you excited, and no matter what they're saying, you feel the voice actors, and it's very well done, very, very good VO. You get the sense that, oh my God, there's urgency. There's people with problems. There's people that are sad. There's people that are happy and joke around. There's people that are total jerks, and you just want to smack. And you get that projected at you instead of your own inner voice kind of trying to interpret it. And it really has an impact on you. You remember more of what you're doing. I barely ever had to refer to my quest log to kind of figure out what I was doing because I kind of remembered it from the story. And it really draws you into the world. I mean, think about it. You can ask yourself, what have you been doing these last couple levels in these zones? And you probably have a sense of what you're doing, but it's kind of like vague to you. You're probably like, yeah, there's this guy. He's bad, and he wants us to. He's got this thing. He's got this object, this powerful object, and it's bad that he has it because with it he can do something with it, and no one wants him to do that thing. So I'm trying to stop him, but before I stop him, I have to get this other thing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And it's funny because you think about it, all these writers and developers are creating these stories and all these MMOs, and they're writing this text, and there's so much work that goes into it, and a lot of people just gloss over it. So Star Wars The Old Republic is really going to advance storytelling in an MMO in a way that hasn't been done, at least in an MMO that I've experienced. Now, the other thing that goes along with that is the fact that your character actually has a life in this. If you've played Dragon Age or Mass Effect, you kind of know what I mean by this. You have dialogue choices when you're talking to these NPCs, and your character is actually voiced as well. So when you select an option of how you want to play your character, it's actually voiced, and you get to see your character come to life. And your character's personality starts to come through based on your choices. Like, I've been playing World of Warcraft since the initial release, but if you asked me, well, who is your character? Tell me about who your character is. What makes him tick? I'd be like, oh yeah, sure, yeah. My character is, I'm a Death Knight, and I use the powers of Unholy Frost and Blood to kill things, and I'm really good at it. I mean, that's the extent of who my character is in World of Warcraft. But I've only played through like 10 or 12 levels, and some of these characters in Star Wars: The Republic, and I knew who they are. Like, my Jedi Knight, he was a totally goody two shoes, and he was dry. He had no sense of humor, and just was all about duty and honor. And if you watch my cheeseburger videos with my Jedi Consular, he's a total jerk. He is so full of himself, and he puts everyone down, and he's totally going to the dark side of the Force, and everyone hates him who he talks to, and it's great, and I love playing those two sides, and I get to pick it. So it resonates with me, and it has a real impact to your choices that you make, and it's you get that kind of single player experience from Dragon Age or a Mass Effect game, but here it is in an MMO environment, and I think. That's an innovation that I haven't seen, or something that's done so well in this game that you can't find in other MMOs. I'll caveat that by saying I haven't found those in other MMOs to date. So now, having said all that, this is not going to be all about just a fanboy video or whatever. There are people that will absolutely hate that. I know this for a fact. I have a couple of friends who can't stand that kind of BioWare game where they're like, oh my goodness, all I want is to get to the action. Why are all these people talking? I don't care. I don't want to make choices. I don't want to hear all this dialogue. Those people, I mean, if you're one of them, you probably will hate this game. There's no denying it. There's a lot of people that want to talk to you, a lot of people that want to have these conversations. In the middle of a flashpoint in a dungeon, with other players, you will have these dialogue options too. So the game is full of it, and if that's the kind of thing that you just don't like, then you're in for a little bit of a rough ride. There is a little bit of hope, however. If you're just interested in getting to the very end of the game, max level, so that you can run operations or flashpoints, you can hit, I think it's spacebar just to get all of your dialogue choices and just get out of these things as fast as you can. There is a way you can kind of skip a lot of the cutscenes. You won't know why you're making certain choices or whatnot, but you can get through it a little bit faster. And if you're just interested in PvPing, then there's even a better way. You just get through it till level 10, you pick your advanced class, and then you can go into war zones and level all the way to max level without seeing any of the story whatsoever. So if you don't like those kind of dialogue, cutscene type things, there is other avenues for you to explore if you're still interested in this game overall. There's a few more features I'd just like to point out real quick, high-level stuff, that I think are interesting aspects of this game. One is you can find companions for your character. Now, if you've played other BioWare games, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, you know how the companions can work. They have a personality, they have wants, desires, they interact with you, and they follow you and they help you on your quest, or your adventure, whatever you want to call it. You can customize them, you can change the way they look a bit, they can perform, while you're soloing and doing different missions and stuff, they can become like a tank if you need, if you're a DPS class, you can have like a tank with you, you can have them heal, you can do different things, and they're not as good as having another player, but they allow you to have a little bit more firepower if you're going around solo. And also, if you can actually use them in some of the lower level flashpoints, so 2 people can use 2 companions and there's your 4. So it kind of shakes things up. They'll interact with you. They might hate you based on how you interact with other people, because they have favor. You have like a reputation meter with them that they'll approve of your actions or not. So it's kind of interesting. So I like that aspect as well. You also have the ability to get your own ship in this game. It happens kind of like in the mid-teens. They're getting closer to the level 20 area. You get your own ship, and you can actually do different kinds of missions where you're actually flying and doing combat on your ship. It's kind of like a tunnel shooter. I haven't done it myself, but I hear the gameplay is pretty tight, and it's kind of like a mini game, shakes things up a bit. So there's different things you can do in the game. I've also been asked if people will like this game if they don't like Star Wars. I don't think so. I mean, seriously, if you don't like Star Wars, I'm not talking about people who are neutral about Star Wars. If you've never really seen the movies or don't have much of an opinion on it, yeah, I think this game can entice you. Think about it. You don't have to know a lot about Star Wars to play this game. It takes place thousands of years before the movies. So, you don't have to worry about, I don't know what the movies are, I don't know the characters. You don't have to know all that. Now, sure, if you're a diehard fan, you've read all the books, you've played Knights of the Old Republic, and there's plenty of lore and different, nuggets of information for you to just gnaw on and chew on. But if you don't know a lot and are worried, I'm going to be lost, I don't know anything, don't worry about that. Just play the game, they'll explain it to you, you'll get engrossed in the story, and you'll probably end up a Star Wars fan as a result. But if you know Star Wars and you've watched the Star Wars movies and you hate Star Wars and you don't understand why people go nuts over this franchise, then no, you're not going to like this game. It's just plain and simple. I mean, if you don't like fantasy at all, you hate fantasy, why would you play a fantasy game? If you don't like sci-fi, don't play sci-fi. It's as simple as that. I've also been asked, why do I think this game is going to be so popular? Like, why is this MMO going to be different than other MMOs? It's MMO players, people who love MMOs, they try a lot of different ones, and they're usually pretty loyal. And when you start to get tired of a game that you've been playing for years and years, you're looking for the next game that's going to occupy all your time, and you want to have a commitment to it. So MMO players will dabble in a lot of different ones, and I think this one will draw a lot of the MMO crowd into it. I mean, they just had a stress test last weekend. It drew over 1 million players got invited and actually played. That's more than a lot of games have subscribers. Or most games have subscribers. That's more so. Not all of them are going to buy the game, obviously, but this is going to, there's going to get a lot of MMO players excited about it. But in addition to that, there's going to be gamers out there who love BioWare, who play their other franchises, that are going to want to try this game just because it's a BioWare game. They may never have tried an MMO before, but they're like, you know what, we love BioWare, we're going to play that. And in addition to that, there's people that don't play MMOs at all, who might not even play video games at all, who just love Star Wars, who are going to say, you know what, I've heard a lot about this game, I'm going to give this a try. So I think they got a lot of different fan bases coming in, and I would predict that this could be the biggest, launch of an MMO that we've ever seen. I mean, obviously, World of Warcraft is extremely popular, has over 10 million subscribers now, 12 million at its peak, but it took a while for them to grow. This might be the biggest, fastest launch of an MMO to date, and I think within the first year, we're going to see that this is the second most subscribed to pay-to-play MMO out there. I don't think it's going to quite hit 10 million players and eclipse WoW in the first year, but I think we'll gradually see Star Wars The Old Republic eclipse WoW's numbers as WoW gets into its 8th and 9th year and Star Wars is just ramping up. So I think it's going to be a huge game in the marketplace. Finally, I'd like to go over, will I be playing Star Wars The Old Republic? Yes, I pre-ordered the game. I will be playing it. I don't know if this is, like I said earlier, the MMO that's going to keep me busy for months and months and years, because I am very much looking forward to Guild Wars 2. But I'm going to play it. I'm going to give it a try and see, how far it is. Now, do I think this is worth it for everyone? This is my opinion of it. I've played the beta enough to know that even if you don't do any of the PvP and you don't have interest in doing the flashpoints or the operations, that's raids and dungeons and raids, just playing by myself and going through the story of a couple of different classes kind of felt like a really well-polished BioWare single-player game. And there's 4 different classes on the Republic side that have unique storylines, and 4 different classes on the Empire side that have unique storylines. And I think if you just buy the game, you get a free month. You don't have to pay for a subscription the first month. I think if you just play a whole lot and go through these single-player experiences, I think you can get your money's worth. I mean, think about it. You play a Mass Effect game, you're going to pay $60. You're going to play the ever-loving snot out of it for a month and maybe beat the single-player campaign right then and there, and you sit back and go, wow, that was worth it. I think you can get that kind of experience out of this game, and then after a month or after you've played a couple of the characters, gone through the story, you can kind of then evaluate, do I want to keep paying per month for these other features and to start looking at the different aspects of the game. So I think it's going to be totally worth it to me just to buy the game, play it a whole bunch, maybe even pay a subscription for a month or 2 and just see what all the story's about. And at that point I can decide, am I going to subscribe to this long term, and is this going to be the MMO that hooks me, from then on? So we'll have to wait and see. Let me know what your thoughts are about Star Wars The Old Republic. If you've been in the beta, have you tried it out? What have you think? What are your thoughts about it? Let me know in the comments field below. As usual, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. All right, click on it. They're going to put an annotation somewhere. You'll be notified when I release further videos, and I really appreciate all the subscriptions I have, and I look forward to getting some more. Right? Right? You guys want some more, right? Stop looking at me like that. See, I just killed Max Rebo, and I did that for you. I can also be reached on Twitter at Richie Procopio and on Google Plus at gplus.to/BogOtter. I talk about gaming stuff, throw up some funny links there sometimes, so please follow me in those locations as well. I thank you so much for watching, and have a great day, and may the Force be with you. I almost did the Star Trek sign, but that is totally not the right franchise. Live long and prosper.